Hi everyone, this is our second video on the intersection design. In our first video, we finished designing the first intersection between alignment 1 and alignment 2. In this video, I will create the second intersection just to show a few different cases that you may come across. So to start with, as usual, we have to make space for our intersection. So I'll slide back the corridor from alignment 1. And before I start making changes, let's have a quick look at what we're working with. Just to remind you, this alignment here, this corridor is related to alignment 1, and that corridor here related to alignment 2. In the first intersection, we had alignment 2 intersecting with alignment 1. In other words, alignment 1 was the main road, alignment 2 was the secondary road. In this case here, alignment 1 will be the secondary road, alignment 2 will be the main or primary road. Now, in the design of the first intersection, we chose for the crown of alignment 1 to continue throughout the intersection and the crown of alignment 2 to stop by the edge of alignment 1. We will try to create similar arrangement here, but in a slightly different way. So the first thing we need to do, just to create a small region here and change the intersection within that region, exactly what we've done in the first example. So I'll do that quickly. I'll choose this time the junction, right hand side junction, rather than left hand side junction. I'll explain in a second. Simply the direction of alignment 2 coming this way and traveling south, that means the junction we're creating here, it's on the right hand side. So if I am traveling that way, I'll be turning right to alignment 1. Now we are at the stage of adding the intersection geometry for the curb returns and the lanes of the intersection. The reason I was mentioning which crown was maintained throughout the intersection here, because when we start designing this intersection here, if we would choose the same options for alignment 1 to intersect with alignment 2, as if this is the main road and this is the secondary road, the software won't let me propose or design that geometry there. The reasoning that will create what we call it circular dependency. That means alignment 2 is depending on the elevation of alignment 1 in this case, and now we're creating another case for alignment 1 to depend on alignment 2. So that will create that circular dependency, which is the software will not be able to handle. So to avoid that, before I'll try to do that so you see what the issue is. I just pressed print screen so I can freeze that note. It says the primary road for this T-junction, here I'm reading, primary road for this T-junction will result in a circular dependency with the existing intersection. They're referring to this intersection here. In other words, that will create alignment 1 depending on alignment 2, which is already alignment 2 depending on alignment 1. So it will not allow you to create that intersection. So escape. What we need to do to avoid a case like this, or what we have to do, we have to trick the software. I'll just turn off the snap and turn off the auto. Trick the software for this intersection, and what we can do, I can just simply extend that, shift right click, extension, extend that alignment by a small distance. This will make the software think that this alignment here is a four-way intersection. It's not a T-junction anymore. So that way will give me the option to choose which one is the primary alignment. And if I choose this as a primary alignment, it will give me the same message of the error. So to avoid all of this, I will make this as a four-way intersection rather than a T intersection. And then I will choose alignment 1 as the primary alignment with some minor change, which is I'll maintain the crown for alignment 2, and I'll show you where I'll choose that option. So let's just redo it again. After we extended the intersection, I'll zoom in and shift right click apparent intersection, the area, the patient, that's the point, and will ask me now, as you can see, which one is the main road alignment. As we agreed, we can't choose this. That will give us the same message. We have to choose that one. By doing that, that will open the intersection menu for us, and that's where I'll choose, rather than maintaining the primary road, which is in our case now it's the side road, we will choose to maintain all crowns along the intersection. That will fix our problem. Okay, we'll call it intersection 2. The rest of it's exactly what we've done before. We'll go next. As we discussed, alignment 1 shows here as the primary road, alignment 2 is the secondary road. This is not the case, but that's okay. And what we need to do is fix all the parameters. Just going back here, even if you try to change those around, the software will not let you do that. If I choose, for example, alignment 1 to be as the primary, see, it's giving me the same message we had before. So we go back to the parameters. The offset parameters, they should be the same at 3.6. They're all at 3.6, which is okay. The curb return parameters, if you notice here, we have 4 curb parameters. We have north, east, this quadrant, although there's nothing there, so it doesn't matter. Even if you choose 1 meter, it doesn't allow me to choose 0, but even if you choose 1 meter, it doesn't matter, because there's no actual quadrant at that location. And the same thing here. The important ones are the southwest and west north. So let's make sure we've got that at 10 meters. Let's try to maintain what we had before, although we can fix those after we draw them, and I'll show you now in a second. I'll choose 12 meters, what we chose before. And keep an eye on the direction, by the way. The direction here going this way and that way. So when I draw the curb return at this area here, this is the direction of the curb return. And if I choose the one we chose before, this is the direction of the curb return. Okay, so I'll just go back to the other one here, and we'll choose 12 meters for now as a preliminary value. Lane slide parameters, they at 3%, negative 3%, that's great. And that's all what we need for now. We're not going to create a corridor, and we're going to create the intersection. Okay, so when I chose 12 meters, as you can tell, the curb radius here is very large. It doesn't allow space for the sidewalk and the boulevard, what we created here on the side of the road before the parcel boundaries. So what we have to do, we have to change that curb return value. Doesn't look bad here, it's all good, but we have to fix that value on this curb return. So all you have to do, just click on the curb return on the actual line, and that will give you the option to change the curb return parameters. We'll choose that to be, let's choose 9 meters, make it a bit smaller. That looks good. We can make it a bit smaller, maybe 8 meters. Okay. And we will maintain the same values. They don't have to be the same values on 4 directions. So close that. Now just keep an eye on one thing. In the case that you didn't look at the direction of these curb returns, what you can do, just to know the direction mainly of these curb returns, so you can choose the right cross section, you can just click on that. As we agreed, this is an alignment, so we can add labels to it. I'll add the right click on it. I'll edit alignment labels. I'll add just the major geometry points. In other words, that will add a starting point, end point, and the tangent points and the rest of it. And that's all what we need. We need to know where the start and where the end. So I chose the geometry points. I'll add those. It's going to add everything. Just keep them all, delete them anyway. So that tells us this last point here is the end point, and the first point is the beginning point at station 00. So that gives us the indication this is the direction of the curve return, and after I look at that I can just simply delete those. I can do the same thing here, but we already looked at it and we know the direction is going this way. Okay, so as usual, just delete that, it's on the way. So now we created the intersection geometry. What we need to start working on the corridor for this geometry. So as we agreed, these lines, they represent alignment and profile, and what we need to start working on is the cross section for this alignment and profile, and that will allow us to create a corridor around this area. Okay, so before I start going into the design of the corridor for these curve returns, I need to look at one thing that we are familiar with at this stage from our previous design of the intersection, which is the end of these corridors, where we get to a point that we need to connect all the corridors together and slide these grid points around so we can get the two corridors to connect together. If you look at those, as we always agree that a corridor has a baseline, and the baseline for these corridors we're creating is this line here as an alignment. So from this point you can tell where the grid point is to draw the corridor of this alignment. In other words, this grid here is the grid we will see at the end of the design that we will start sliding around for the corridor. So if I make sure the two grids are aligned together, that will make sure that when I create the corridors, both corridors, they finish at the same line. So what we can do, we can just slide this grid back to that grid. In that way, both corridors will finish at the same point. That will save us time at the end to align the corridors together. For this point here is not very important. We can just slide it, if you want, back to the intersection as we agreed. If I choose end points, that will be the intersection of where we have that intersection between, that's the point here. Can you see the intersection between the curve and the straight line? Not this one here. This is the intersection with the cross section along this corridor. But if I keep going a bit further, I'll grip to that point here, which is the end point of the curve. And I'll do the same for the second one. I'll look closely here and shift right click end point, and that will give me the end of the curve. That way my corridor I'll create now will finish here at the end of the curve, and the rest of the corridor we can continue it from the initial corridor on alignment 2. I don't want you to be very worried about this. Even if you didn't do it, you can do it at the end, but that will save you time if you do it from the beginning. You make all the ends of the corridors at the desired points. Okay, we start building our corridors here. So what we need to do, we need to create additional components to the main corridor for alignment 2. We click on the corridor alignment 2 and add baselines. That would be, as you can see, there's lots of alignments now by this time, and all these alignments you've got here on the intersection 2, you have 4 sides. Intersection 1 we have 2 sides, as we agreed that 4 sides, 2 of them are redundant, but they still show here. So it's easier if you want to, we can just select from the drawings. I'll choose this alignment as a baseline. I'll click OK, and that will choose the profile. Press OK, and we'll do the same for the southwest. As we agreed, I'll choose just to click from the drawings, southwest intersection 2, press OK, and that will choose the profile for it, and I'll choose OK. So we added the alignment and the profiles. Our next step to add the cross section to those. So I'll go to corridor property. These are the 2 alignments that we had. I'll add region. In other words, that will be the intersection. So what intersection we have to choose for this? Let's go back. As we agreed, the direction on those both curves is clockwise. That means I need a cross section with the lane on the left hand side, curb, gutter, sidewalk and daylight on the right hand side. So that would be the lane on the left hand side and all of those. So we call this one here as a right hand side curve return. So I'll choose that. I'll go back to here, select the corridor. I'll go to the corridor properties, and from here right click, add region, and there'll be curve return right hand side. Okay, and the same thing for the second one, add region, curve return right hand side. Okay, so you have to have just one assembly under each alignment. If you have more than one assembly, you have an issue here. You have to delete all of those extra assemblies. We can fix almost everything since now we learned the process of how things work. So what we can do, we can fix most things from this menu here. I can fix the frequency from here, so I'll fix the frequency to be 1. We can fix the targets. As we agreed, the surface target will be site 1, existing ground, and we agreed to fix the targets for the lanes only. So I'll look where the lanes are, and that's the width target. Will ask me what targets do you want. Again, we go to the point of we have too many options here. It's easier to select from the drawings. So I'll select for this alignment here. We will have this line as a target, which is the right hand edge of alignment 2, and this line here, which is the main alignment line for line 1. So I'll choose that line, press OK. If I press add, check the names, alignment 1, alignment 2, right lane. That's right. I'll do the same for the elevation. I'll choose from the drawings. I'll choose the same targets that has one profile. I'll choose that, add, and I'll choose the other one, which is alignment 1, has 2 profiles. I'll choose the proposed profile and I'll press add. Okay, so I'll fix the targets on that. I can do the same targets for the second one. Apply and OK. As you can see, we finished few steps at the same time. So all what we need to do now, we have to add extra sections around this area to fix that small gaps, and I'll do that by just clicking on the corridor, add section for this region, shift right click, and here enter. I'll do the same for the other region, add section, this region, shift right click, it's done. So if we look at, if we extend our corridor here, and I'll extend this corridor here, shift right click in point to this edge here. As you can see, all the corridors, they match perfectly at the connection points, and that's what we're after. Okay, so just for completeness sake, what we need to do, the last thing, is just to create a surface for these 2 corridors, and we will look at that, combining it with the existing ground surface. That will give us a full finished ground surface. So to create a surface, as you remember, for a corridor, click on the corridor and go to corridor surface, add a corridor surface at the top of the corridor, choose that. We go to the boundaries, right click, and corridor extends as outer boundary. I'll press OK. As you can see, there's contours now on the corridor. These contours for the surface on top of the corridor. I'll do the same for the second corridor. This is our surfaces for the corridor. If I show the existing ground surface, and now I'll create a combined surface of all surfaces. I'll just create a new surface. I'll call it FG for finished ground. The FG doesn't have any information. We start adding information to it from edits, paste surfaces. We add the existing ground first, and then we paste corridor 1 and corridor 2. Okay, so by mistake we created this FG surface as a background. If I look at the properties for that, by mistake we created as a background. All what we have is just the style of it, so the colors, we change that to 1 and 5 design rather than background. Apply and OK. So now if we look at the overall surface for our corridor, for the new corridors and the existing ground, object viewer, this is the surface of these roads with the intersections that we just created. We can zoom into the intersection. As you can see, we maintain the crown for alignment 1. We have a small glitch around this area here. We can fix it now easily. Let's check the second intersection that we created at the start. We have a smaller problem here too. So if I just rotate this one around, look at it, we have similar issue around this area here. We can fix that one too. So to fix these two minor issues, all I have to do, I'll keep the corridors, both corridors, and their surfaces only. Just choosing the surfaces of the corridors. In fact, to make it step by step for you, I'll just go to FG, hide that surface, no display, apply and OK. And the same thing will go for existing grounds, property, no display. All I have now, the corridors and their surfaces only. So I'll just keep those on, and I'll change the surface style here just to make it clear where the issues are. I'm trying to look at it. There's an issue here, I can't see it, and there's another issue around here. At the same time, I can't see it. Okay, so to see these issues, what we need to do is change the surface style for these two corridors to triangles. So the surface style to contours and triangles, apply and OK. I'll do the same for the second surface here, which is alignment 2 surface. So go to contours and triangles, apply and OK. Now we can see where the issue is, because now we can see all the triangles. Simply you can tell straight away there's a line here. For some reason the surface didn't draw a line part of its triangles. There's a edge here, you can see the line of the corridor, you see that dashed line is part of the corridor, and all these lines are part of the surface. So what we need to do, simply just edit surface. First of all, select the right surface, select the surface for corridor 2, add a line, and I simply just where that line is, have to add a line. That should be fixed now. And if we go back to the other area where we had the same issue, you can tell it's about here. So select the right surface, edit surface, add a line, and that's fixed. So if we go back now and look at our surface in 3D, object viewer, I have to select both surfaces. These are the two surfaces. Object viewer, that's where we had the issue here. It's all fixed. And that's where we had the issue there. If you look at it from the other side, it's fixed. We still have a smaller issue next to it, a minor issue next to it here, but that's okay. But here where we had an issue with the curve, it's all fixed. Let's go and look at that, where the issue is here. So we go to close that. This area, that's where the missing line is, so we can add a line to that. Click on the surface, edit surface, add line from here to there. Look at that surface again, object viewer, you can see all this area here has been fixed. Okay, so all of those simply, you can see some waviness or not very smooth around that area. It's all about how many cross sections you have here. You can add more cross sections to make it smoother around that region. Having said that, it's not really important to us, so that will be enough. So I'll just go back and change the style of these surfaces. Rebuild the finished ground and change the style of these two surfaces to one and 5 design. Second thing, surface property 1 and 5 design, apply and OK, and I'll show the finished ground surface 1 and 5 design, apply and OK. Okay, what we changed by mistake seems that we changed the FG is still hidden. So we go now and look at on the finished ground surface, object viewer. As you can see, this is the intersections. This is the design of the two intersections that we just created. Okay.